Nationwide is on your side. It's catchy.
It is catchy. Nationwide is on your side. I'm going to use that jingle to help us remember how to do subtraction of integers. Subtraction, like 4 minus 3 is 1, which is like the addition problems we were doing. 4 and negative 3 is also 1. Subtraction and addition are not the same thing. They're completely opposites. They're inverses of each other. Subtraction and addition are inverses, just like multiplication and division. But subtraction is the same as adding the opposite of this number right here. The opposite of a 3 is a negative 3. Subtraction's adding the opposite. Say it with me. Subtraction's adding the opposite. Now we're going to use that to do our next lesson on subtraction. We are going to change everything to adding the opposite. And you're going to think you're going to want to do shortcuts, you're going to want to do things differently, but please trust me. I want you to change all the subtraction signs to adding the opposite. It's going to make your life easier, and when you get to harder questions in high school that have way less numbers and way more letters or variables, you really have to know this. So no skipping steps. All right, let's do the lesson here. So at the top, another word for negative, or when you see a negative sign, is negate. Negate means do the opposite, and the symbol is the subtraction or the negative symbol. And the rule for subtraction is subtracting a number is the same as adding its additive inverse. In other words, add oppo. Okay? 8 minus 2. I'm sure you know the answer, so let's just go ahead and write it, because it's going to help us when we have to do it add oppo way. I always start with something easy that we might know the answer for, so we have something to work off of or compare to. But trust me, you're going to write adding opposite for all of these. So underneath it, I'm going to keep the 8, because I'm not subtracting the 8, I'm subtracting the 2. And instead of subtraction, I'm going to do adding, and the opposite of a regular 2 is a negative 2. Notice that I slant that negative so it doesn't get lost anywhere. Okay? If I was going to do a picture with number lines, which we just finished off, 8 is positive, so it goes to the right 8 spaces. And then I go left 2 spaces. And you can see the answer is 6. And I'm going to draw a chip diagram, and I'm going to do a subtraction chip diagram. So I'm going to put down 8 positives. And subtraction, another way we used to say subtraction is we used to say take away. When you subtract something, you take it away. So in my picture, I have 8 positives, and this picture is pretty easy. I'm going to take away or remove 2 of them. I'm going to take away 2. So here's 2. I'm going to show taking away by shading. When I take away those 2, I am left with 6, just like you knew the answer would be. So that's a really cool picture. It explains it really well with the removing or the taking away or subtracting. But if I wanted to do 4 take away 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can't take away 9. I don't have 9. So it's definitely easier to change it to an addition question. Now subtraction and addition are not the same thing, but subtraction is the same as adding the opposite of a regular 9. So to make this this is an easier problem. This one's a harder one to do. I'm going to show it to you, but you probably won't like it. So here's the easier one. There's 4 positives and add in 9 negatives. So there's my 9 negatives. I see 4 0 pairs that cancel, And my answer is right here. I see 5 negatives. Now remember, I say 5 and then I say negatives, but I'm going to write -5 for my answer. You can also do that on the number line. Go ahead and do it on the number line. Pause the video. I went from 0, starting dot. Positive is to the right 4, and then I start from here and I go left 9, and it ends at -5. Same answer I got here. Now, you ready for a more advanced version? I'm going to show you what the actual subtraction picture looks like for this one. So we did our addition picture, and you have that up, down on your notes for 4 minus 9, which is the same as 4 and a -9. So I have the picture here. We know the answer is -5. Now I want to show you what it would look like if I did subtraction. So it says I have 4 positives, take away 9 positives. Well, I can't take away something I don't have. So I'm going to use another property. We've been going over properties, and they're in your mega notes if you need to look back at them. What can I add to something that won't change the answer? I'll get back what I started with. 4 plus what will be 4? It's 0. That's my additive identity. So if I was going to put a 0 in my picture, it would look like this. A positive with a negative. That's a 0, right? When you add 0, nothing happens. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives. Hey, if I keep doing that, I can get 9 positives. So I'm going to add another 0 and another 0. I'm up to 7 positives, 8, 9. So all I did was add a bunch of zeros. Adding zeros doesn't change anything. Now I see 9 positives. I still have the number 4 on my paper, right here, 4, 0. But I see 9 positives and I can remove them. So I'm going to remove, and you don't want to shade it in so dark that you don't know what was underneath. I'm going to remove those, and I see that I have left 5 negatives. That is more advanced. You can put that in your notes if you want. Label it subtraction pick. Okay, let's try C. C says -3 minus 7. They look the same, but this is the first number. It's not getting subtracted from anything, so I'm not minusing or subtracting this. So it's just a plain old -3 and take away 7. So let's do it the easy way. Let's change it to an addition problem, which is the goal of today's lesson. And I'm also going to have you do this on every problem. When you see subtraction on, you're going to write the words add over the subtraction sign and oppo over the number that comes after it. So this -3 is in front. It doesn't change. You copy the -3. Subtractions, adding, and the opposite of a regular 7 is a -7. Please remember, not every question is going to be adding a negative, but the opposite of a positive is a negative. So please remember, just if you see subtraction, change it to adding the opposite. Subtraction's adding the opposite. Now I want you to draw the 3 negatives and 7 negatives, and then tell me the answer. 3 negatives and 7 negatives make 10 negatives. You can also do that on the number line. Remember, if this goes too fast, you just pause the video. Okay, then I have left 3, and from there left 7. I finish at -10. Now on the bottom, all my examples involve a different combination of types of integers. This last one is a subtraction of 2 negative integers. So this is not a subtraction sign, this is a negative because it's not getting subtracted from anything. And this one's a subtraction sign because it's in between the numbers. So subtraction's adding the opposite. Write it down. Go to town. If I do it, you do it. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. So I got a -9 here. The subtraction's adding an opposite. of a negative 2, and the opposite of a negative 2 is a positive 2. For the sake of it not looking too cluttered up, let's not write that extra positive. I don't need plus a positive. Just leave it alone. Okay? Now I want you to do the number line and draw the chips and give me the answer. When you're done, unpause the video. Pause the video now though. Okay, there's my number line. The answer's right here, -7. Here's my chip diagram. If you see that I shaded, it's because I took them away. I removed them. I didn't draw the addition picture. I drew the subtraction picture. I drew 9 negatives and I took away 2 negatives because it was an easy one. It wasn't like question B. This was easier. Okay, so at the bottom we have some properties that I'm just going to go over. These properties will also be located on a page of the Mega Notes. I encourage you to check them out. So I'm just going to want you to copy this down. So you pause to give yourself time to copy this. But the commutative property of addition is when you change the order of the numbers you add. It only works for addition. And you get the same answer. Like 3 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 3. I wrote variables because I don't have to use those numbers. I can use different ones. -1 plus 6 is the same as 6 and -1. Inverse means opposite. So if I'm doing an additive inverse, I'm changing it the sign. This means opposite. So 5 and -5 are additive inverses. -5 and the opposite of -5, which would be regular 5, are also additive inverses. A zero pair is the things that we cancel to 0, a number with its opposite, a plus with a minus. The additive identity is 0. Any number you have, I'm going to use a variable, added to 0 will give you back the same number, like 6 plus 0 still gives you 6. Okay? Now on the next page, I want you to do those 3 examples on your own and then unpause the video to check your answers. Now I want every last one of you, when you see a subtraction, to write add oppo. The first question says -2 minus a -5. That's a subtraction, that's a minus, so we're going to write add over the subtraction, oppo over the next number. Okay? You can go and try that on your own in a second. This next one says 11 take away -8. 11 minus -8. 11 subtract -8. That's a subtraction, so I'm going to write add oppo. I'm going to rewrite. I want everybody to rewrite these questions. That's a subtraction as an addition, an equivalent, an equal addition expression. Okay? The first number doesn't change. And I want to see everything written instead of subtraction as an addition. You just need to remember that subtraction's adding the opposite. Follow what you wrote. Pause the video. When you're done, come back, see what you got. Now you could use a chip diagram or a number line to get your answer. Maybe you're starting to come up with ways in your head to get the answer. -2 plus 5 is +3. There's more positives. Comes out positive. Next one is a question from like elementary school. 11 plus a regular 8. The opposite of a -8 is a +8. Comes out 19. And -10 plus the opposite of a -4, which is a +4, comes out -6. There's more negatives, so my answer ends up being negative. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a word problem here. It says write 2 equivalent means equal, expressions means I don't have an equal sign, that would represent an airplane flies at an altitude of 25,000 feet. You're going to want to know this word because it'll come up in word problems. Altitude is height. So if I'm going to write things, I'm going to write, so this is basically saying write the same thing 2 different ways. So I have an airplane flies at an altitude of 25,000 feet. A submarine dives, which means it goes down, to a depth of 600 feet below sea level. 600 feet below is going to be a negative 600. It's under zero. It's negative. What is the difference? Difference means subtraction of these two elevations. So that's an expression. That's one expression. They asked me to write two. That is the same thing as subtractions, adding the opposite. So I'm going to change this to addition and change the negative 600. So it's addition. The opposite of a negative is a positive. And both of these things are the same thing. So the answer, those are my two different expressions. The actual answer is 25,600 feet. They are 25,600 feet apart. Right here you have notes. Okay, it's not questions, it's in a box. It says lesson summary. The rule for subtraction. Subtracting a number is the same as adding its opposite. Removing is a very important word you will hear come up. Is the same thing as taking away or subtracting. If you take away a positive card, it's the same as adding a negative card. Removing or subtracting a negative is the same as just adding a positive. If I take away your negativity, you're going to feel some positivity. Okay? For all rational numbers, rational means it can be written as a fraction. Subtracting a number and adding it back get you back where you started. If you take something away and then give it back, then you're back where you started. Okay? There are some problems at the bottom. You're going to try those. You're going to pause the video, and then you're going to come back and you're going to check your answers. They got an example right here. On the number line, find the difference. So you guys can have a number line, or you can use chips if you want. Find the difference. Difference means subtract. These are words that should show up in your vocab quiz that's coming up. Subtract 4 from everything and complete the table. So the first one's take 10. Take 10 and subtract 4. As an addition sentence, it's 10 and the opposite of 4. The answer is 6, either way you look at it. Okay, hope you did okay on that. If you didn't, message me or talk to me in class. I'll go over some of this with you. When you're done with these notes, on Cami, you're going to press turn in, and then submit. And then you're going to go right on to the next lesson, which I believe is just practice. When you're done with the practice, check the answer key and see how you did. If you didn't do so well, you should come talk to me. All right, have a good night.